Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about ear fatigue. This is a problem that I ran into recently while I was mixing one of my tracks, and I wanted to take you along for the ride to talk about what I discovered about the topic. We're also going to talk about how you can make sure that you don't have this problem yourself, and we're going to talk about how you can train your ears before a mixing session. If at any point in time you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like it, and if you're new here and you want to see more of what I do, make sure that you're subscribed. So here I have 3 versions of a mix that I did for this track called The Human Condition, which is going to be on an upcoming EP. We're just going to have a listen to the first one.
Let's do the book. That's the human condition.
So those 3 examples, as I said, are from my first initial mix, which meant that I just imported the tracks and unmuted them one by one. Then what I would do is I would try to take that track that I just unmuted and try to mix it in with all of the existing content that was already there. That for me really is the first phase of the mixing process, making sure that all of the sound find the right balance within the mix. The reason why I have to do this is because I export all of the tracks normalized when I export for mixing, because I actually use a different DAW to mix in. This is Reaper, this is the DAW that I use to mix in. As you can see, all of the tracks are loaded as audio tracks. That is deliberately done so that I don't go back into the production and start to change patches or sequences or even melodies or stuff like that. Because we're all guilty of doing this if you mix in the same project, is that you go back into the production and actually start changing some of the sounds and some of the ideas that you had for the track. And I found that that can really hinder the way that you are mixing, because it hinders you from thinking about the track technically and it turns you back into a creative mindset. So if exporting all of the tracks, I make sure that I am no longer able to actually modify the patches, modify any of the melodies. I can still make small tweaks or changes when needed if there's some problems with some audio files, or in this case where there was an issue with, for example, a kick fill. So I decided to modify that so that it would be better. So after that initial mix, I decided to leave the project for a while. I decided to take roughly a week off from the project and then come back to it with some fresh ears. This is the mix that I ended up making after that. And this is a continuation. I would go back into it, adjust some balances, add new creative effects and dive more into the details and stuff like that. So you can hear that there's a very significant tonal difference. It's a lot darker and it's a lot punchier. Let's do a little bit of comparison. I'm going to turn this track on, and that means that we're first going to be listening to this first track, and if I solo right here, we'll be listening to the other track. So hopefully you can hear the difference, and hopefully you also say that the second version sounds too muffled and too dark. And the reason why I say that is that second version was actually done during the evening after a live stream. And that is a very keen detail. It means that I was for some time already busy with music production right before I did this mix, and my ears were actually out of tune. I was not able to make the right judgments for the mix and decide what the mix actually needed. And when I woke up the next morning, I re-listened to it and I decided this is not the right way. This is not how the mix is supposed to sound. It immediately stood out to me that this mix was off, just like expired milk. Now I did actually like the characteristics and the volume balances for this mix, so I decided to keep all of those and just rebalance with some EQ. And this is what the rebalanced version sounds like. So you can hear that I dialed back a lot of those changes in terms of the darkness and in terms of the punch. There's still a lot of the characteristics that are the same, but there's also a lot of characteristics that it shares with the first mix that I did. I'm going to let it play through and we're going to be comparing all three of them now.
You may be having a spiritual awakening.
Now the mix is not completely finished. I still want to do one final session of listening through, noting down all of the problems and then finalizing the mix, and then I will go into mastering. But this was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Hearing a track that you thought was mixed very, very well sounds so off in terms of its tonality, in terms of its basic spectral content. That was something that I had never experienced before, so therefore I wanted to make this video to hopefully prevent that from happening for you. Now, something that I could have done and something that you can also do when you're encountering this problem is to step away from a little bit, put on some music, something that is actually in the genre that you're trying to mix, so that you can learn from the sounds that you're listening to. This time I did not have time, as I said, I was streaming right before. But what I would usually do is just turn on some Spotify, listen to some sidetracks for 30 minutes and then go into the mixing session. That refashions and tunes your ear to what your tracks are supposed to sound like, and therefore you're just going to make a lot better mixing decisions. So this is going to be the end of the video. Now if you ever run into a problem like this, I hope that you know what to do. If you did enjoy this video, let me know by leaving a like. If you're new here and you want to see more of what I do, make sure that you're subscribed. Also, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming part of my Patreon group, or you can buy my products on my Gumroad page. But that's going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.
It's impossible to